The White House has confirmed that President Donald Trump will discuss Venezuela in a meeting with his national security team today as his administration intensifies its pressure campaign on the country. The White House has also defended an admiral who says ordered a follow-up strike that killed survivors on an alleged drug vessel in the Caribbean, saying he was acting well within his authority. Lawmakers from both parties have voiced concerns over the second strike legality. Meanwhile, U.S. government has taken over the official G20 social media page as the new president of the organization. To discuss these issues, we are joined by SABC U.S. correspondent Kate Fisher in Washington, D.C. Kate, it's nothing particularly significant, but the White House has taken control over the communication platforms of the G20 and, of course, I guess unveiled unceremoniously the G20 logo, but it says nothing about their thematic approach, and Donald Trump seems to still be holding the world in suspense and in the dark about what his program and approach would be to the G20. But in a very seemingly narcissistic way, the post included him standing with his fist up as making it about himself and rather the program itself. Does it signal anything for us? Is there anything else that you're hearing in the corridor whispers of Capitol Hill and Washington?
Well, I think it shows you the fact that now that the US is the host of the G20, that all the social media and the website, all the official kind of communications apparatus for the G20 now under the US's control in their role as chair, the fact that there really isn't very much information there at all. As you say, all there is on all of these outlets is simply a picture of Donald Trump with a USA hat, his fist in the air, and the slogan underneath, "The best is yet to come," but there is no detail whatsoever suggesting that perhaps there hasn't been very much preparation work done for the US's turn in this important position. There was a short statement released by the White House saying that the focus with the G20 under the US would be economic growth, deregulation and energy. And I think from that you can see the things that clearly aren't mentioned as priorities, things like climate change, sustainability, equity, things that have been really key themes of the G20 over recent years. So I think we can see from this that Donald Trump is very much remaking the G20 in his own image and to fit his own, the way he wants to see things done, just as he's done with most of the things in Washington, D.C., most of the institutions as well. The G20 appears to be no different, and at the moment we have very little information about how the US is going to handle its turn as the chair of this summit.
Yeah, well, Donald Trump's attention seems to be focused squarely on what's happening in Venezuela. He, of course, through Truth Social, had declared, and I'm not sure if that's legal at all, the airspace above Venezuela as being officially closed, seeming to have issued a veiled threat against anyone who dare ignore his declaration. What are we hearing out of the White House pertaining to Venezuela?
Well, we're expecting in just under 2 hours' time here in Washington that Donald Trump is going to be holding a meeting with high-level members of his cabinet, including the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, to discuss next steps for Venezuela. Clearly, over the weekend, he made these threats to close the airspace. He also had a conversation on the phone with Nicolas Maduro, but we don't know the details of what was said on that. There is some reporting suggesting that sources say that he essentially gave the Venezuelan president an ultimatum to say that he could leave and would be offered safe passage. Otherwise, the US may take more action. So far, that hasn't happened, and we don't have any confirmation that that is actually what was said. We do know that just about an hour or so ago here in Washington, Caroline Leavitt, who is the press secretary for the president, gave a briefing to reporters at the White House, and she was asked about this Venezuelan issue. She doubled down on the fact that she believed that the White House and the Secretary of War had not made any mistakes or done anything wrong by ensuring that every person on one of the drug boats that was targeted by the US was killed. There has been some reporting in the Washington Post here to suggest that there were after an initial strike on one of these alleged drug boats, there were still 2 survivors, and there was a decision taken to strike this vessel again to ensure that the other 2 people that were surviving died. Some critics on both sides of the aisle have said this is perhaps, well, certainly in the Democratic Party have suggested it amounts to a war crime, and there's also been criticism from Republicans as well that this is not how the US military should be behaving. Secretary Hegseth has condemned the news story, saying it's a fabrication. And Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, also doubled down today, saying that the US military had done nothing wrong and they had been following protocol and that they were just doing whatever they could to keep Americans safe from drugs. So clearly this issue is not going away. Reporters asking lots of questions. And as I say, in just under 2 hours, President Trump will be holding that meeting in the Oval Office. And it's likely that we'll have some kind of update once that's over.
Is there any official response from Nicolas Maduro's office?
No, not since that phone call with Donald Trump, I think on Friday. We've not heard from Maduro about what he is thinking and doing, other than to say that he is clearly staying where he is. There are analysts that believe that the Venezuelans think that the US is not going to carry out the full threat of what it could do, and that they see it more as a kind of a bargaining tool rather than a serious threat to Nicolas Maduro's life. But clearly we don't know, and maybe Donald Trump doesn't know because he's speaking to his advisors in just under 2 hours' time. I think if there is anything out of that meeting that's made public, then perhaps the Venezuelans will respond.
Yeah, let's talk very quickly about Donald Trump's ongoing seemingly futile efforts on getting a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine to get going. And of course, the French have responded, Emmanuel Macron, saying that territorial integrity should not be up for debate in this instance. Donald Trump seems to have in previous times urged towards having Vladimir Zelensky consider some sort of territorial secession and concession to the Russians. What are we hearing out of the White House pertaining to this, as this seemingly still occupies Donald Trump's mind space?
Yeah, this has not been on anything that he's commented on today. But of course, over the weekend, his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was in those talks with Ukrainians in Florida to try to work through this. Both sides saying that those talks have been productive, but that there was still a lot of work still to do. And that is, of course, looking ahead to tomorrow, Tuesday, when Steve Witkoff, who is Donald Trump's kind of closest foreign envoy, is heading off to Moscow. In fact, I think he's on his way there shortly, if not in the air now. He will be meeting President Vladimir Putin, the Russian leader, to try to push this peace process forward. He'll be bringing the talks that were had in Florida over the weekend that he was part of as well. He'll be bringing that perspective to Vladimir Putin to see if there's any movement, any way to find a compromise. But certainly a lot of analysts are quite skeptical about whether there is any room for maneuver on the Russian side. They've been clear all along about their demands, maximalist demands. Like you say, they want this territory that at the moment they don't even occupy, some of this territory that they want to see under Russian control. That is something that the Europeans and the Ukrainians themselves have said is simply a non-negotiable. They will not be giving up territory that they haven't already lost. And it will be whether, Steve Witkoff and his team are able to make any persuasions towards Vladimir Putin, who at the moment seems to think that he can sit this war out, let it grind on, and that eventually the Russians will get the upper hand. But perhaps this new form of draft plan that has been organised between the Ukrainians and the Americans this weekend, perhaps Steve Witkoff can have some breakthrough with Vladimir Putin, and that meeting takes place tomorrow, Tuesday afternoon, Russia time.
Going to have to leave it there. Kate Fisher, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Kate Fisher, SABC News, US Washington, D.C. correspondent, coming to us live there.